everybody, it's me, Chef Steph. I'm going to show you today how to make a perfect flaky pie crust for your Thanksgiving pies, or for any pie, any time of the year, but it is Thanksgiving next week, and that's what we are going to be working on. So the very first thing we want to do is we're going to have 2.5 cups of flour. To that flour, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of white sugar, and we're going to add a teaspoon of salt. I prefer using sea salt in all my baking. I just prefer the flavor that comes from the sea salt rather than the iodized salt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a quick little whisk to make sure that our flour, sugar, and salt are all mixed together really well. Then I'm going to put this into my food processor. So there are a few different ways that we can make this, and of course I have to get it everywhere. There are a few different ways that you can make a pie crust. You can do it by hand. When you do this by hand, you use one of those little wire butter cutters. Very labor intensive. Takes a very long, pretty long, not a huge amount of time, but there's a lot of, physical work that goes into it. Your food processor will make it for you, lickety split, with no effort. If you don't have a food processor, you could try using your KitchenAid mixer. I don't prefer to do that, just because the mixer mixes the butter around, and I feel that it works the dough too much. You don't want to overwork your dough when you're cutting your butter into your flour. Otherwise, you're going to have a harder, tougher dough, and nobody wants that. You want to have a nice, light, flaky crust. So, food processor really is your best bet, or doing it by hand the old-fashioned way. All right, so butter. What kind of butter do we use? In all my baking, I always use unsalted butter. I like to control the amount of salt that goes into the foods that I make, so I always get unsalted butter. When I purchase butter, everyone probably gets butter in the little half cup sticks. This half cup sticks that are individually wrapped usually get 4 in one little box. It costs more. So what you want to do, if you don't mind doing this yourself, I always buy these in the blocks. So you can I go to Costco and I can get it in 4 of the 1 pound blocks, and then I individually cut each one of these. So you can see here, if you were to cut this right here, 1/4 pound is half a cup of butter, or 1 stick. And you get 4 of those out of 1 block. You save a significant amount of money since it's not already cut for you, and because it's not individually wrapped. Now, you go to Costco or another store and you get these. Usually you get them 3 to 4 pounds worth, so you get 3 or 4 of these. You're like, Stephanie, I'm not going to use that much butter all at once. You don't have to. I keep this in my freezer. I always have at least 4 pounds of butter in my freezer, so I can make something whenever I want, so I never have to worry about running to the store to get it. So that's a good little tip. All right, so we're going to take our butter and we're going to kind of even that out a little bit. So now I always put my dry ingredients in first, because if I put my butter in first and then the dry ingredients, the butter's going to get all stuck to the bottom. So I do this so that it's not coating the sides of the container. It's really working into the flour and there's no waste. So I'm just going to carefully place this into here. Get my lid. Now, we're not going to turn this on and let it run. That's not good. That will cause the machine will heat up the butter. You don't want to do that. Oh, and also, you want to make sure to use your dough blade. So this here is a dough blade. It's not metal, it's plastic, and it's shorter. So it's almost like two knives. Now, if you've ever seen a pie crust recipe, sometimes it says to use 2 knives to cut in the butter. It's the same kind of thing, except it's an electric. So I'm just gonna put that back in there. If you were to use metal blades to do your pie crust, it's gonna, like I said before, it's gonna heat the butter up and it's gonna start to melt, and you're not gonna achieve the chopped up little balls of butter that I'm gonna show you in 1 second. It's just gonna be a very like slick mess. So what I'm gonna do is there's the pulse button, and we're going to just hit pulse a few times. And then we're gonna check this and see how it's doing. Okay, so you can see we still have some pretty large pieces of butter in the container. So let's do this a little bit more. Okay, let's see how it's doing now. Now you can see it's starting to kind of break up. I'm going to do the pulsing a few more times so that we can get the pieces broken down a little bit more. You want them in about pea-sized, the size of like peas before we would add our water. We're going to add in ice water to this mixture. The ice water will then harden the butter to a certain degree so that it all stays, you know, nice and chilled. So let's do some more of the pulsing. That should be good. All right, so now you can see we have, whoopsie, I'm throwing the flour all over the place. We have some nice sized pieces of butter. So now I'm going to start to drizzle in my ice water, and then we will have a beautiful pie dough. We'll be one step closer to a beautiful pie dough. So again, we're gonna drizzle this in. This is 1/3 cup. 1/3 cup ice water. So as you're pulsing this in, you want to make sure that you take a look at your mixture and see, okay, is this too much water? Because if you've ever baked before, you do know that the weather, whether it be dry or humid, it can affect your flour ingredients. So you kind of just have to see. It could be that one day you do 1/3 of a cup of ice water and then 4 tablespoons extra of water to get your correct consistency. Could be that you do 1/3 of a cup of water on a different day and that was it. It was on borderline too much. So this is where you kind of have to use your eye to see and determine where your dough is at. All right, so we need more. So we're gonna pulse this in. Okay, so that was a full 1/3 cup. Now we're gonna look at this again. Okay. Now this is feeling good. It could use just a teensy weensy bit more of water, because you should be able to grab a handful of dough and it should stick together. Now it partially sticks together and then it kind of falls apart. So let's add just a little bit more. And I had a little more water on the side here, just in case. It is a little bit dry out today, so it doesn't surprise me that I needed a little more. All right, so you don't want to add it all at once. Add just a little bit at a time because you can't take away the water once it's in there. And when you start adding more flour into it to compensate for too much water, then it's going to start throwing your ratios off, because remember, you have to put more flour down on your board when you go to roll things out. So just add just a little bit at a time. Can't take it away. All right, here we go. Should start to pull away from the sides, and it should become kind of a ball that starts to move around the container. Let's see here. All right, that's looking good. So now we can carefully, and throwing it around the kitchen, so now it comes together and it looks good, okay? So I don't think I want to add any more water to this for fear that it'll end up getting have too much moisture, and then it won't be good. So then what you're going to do is you're going to now take the dough, you're going to turn it out on your board or onto your counter, whichever one. Okay, I don't have a whole lot of flour here, but I'm not rolling it out. I'm actually going to take the dough and we're going to put it into 2 discs, because this recipe will make 2 9-inch pie shells, pie crusts. So that can either be 2 pumpkin pies, or it could be a top and a bottom to 1 pie. Just depends on what you're making. All right, so I'm just going to kind of pull this together, and I want to kind of push my hand, the palm of my hand through, and then pull it back together. This is going to add layers to your crust. So there's going to be kind of layers of flour and butter, layers of flour and butter. This kind of gives you that nice layered, flaky crust that you're looking forward to. All right, you don't want to overwork the dough either, so definitely touch it the least amount as possible. All right, so I picked up everything from the board, meaning all of the flour and pieces. So now I can take this, split it into 2 discs. You can either wrap it in some parchment or put it into some plastic wrap and put it into the fridge and chill it for at least 30 minutes. Then you can take it out, roll it out, and put it into your pie pan. So I hope that this video helped you today create your best pie crust ever, and that your Thanksgiving is a great one. Thank you. Bye-bye. If you found this video helpful, please give us a thumbs up. I have more recipes just like this one and more videos to come. Hopefully, they will help you become a faster and more efficient cook in your own kitchen. Give us a subscribe at potstockandladle.com to keep up on all of the latest videos and information. Thank you. Bye.